Hello and welcome to the CodeRage 9. My name is Denis Zubov. I'm one of the FastReport developers. Today we will speak about how you can get your reports works on mobile devices. We will not speak about FastReport FMX, we will speak about FastReport 5 VCL Enterprise, how you can build a web service and use it on different platforms from different devices. This video starts from introduction of FastReport Enterprise components. I will speak a little bit about what is FastReport Enterprise components is. Later we will build a small server application using FastReport components, run this server application, configure it and use it as web service from different devices, from desktop browser, from mobile browser. And in last part we will try to build a small application which looks native for mobile devices. It uses TV browser components. It allows you to connect directly to FastReport server and show reports on Android device. FastReport Enterprise based on client-server technology, and it gives you ability to interact between server and client application. So it will give you some advantage of using this technology, like low hardware requirements for client, so that's why you can use and view reports from mobile devices. It can reduce of network traffic because you don't need to connect to database and query unnecessary data. Also, this system is simple for management, but also this technology has some disadvantage because your application is not native, it's just a web service. You need to use high hardware requirements for your server, and of course it's not easy to develop and support client server application. But in this video I will show you how you can easily do it with FastReport Enterprise components. It's not that hard to do it. So FastReport Enterprise Edition contains few components. There are TFRX report server, TFRX report client, TFRX server connection and TFRX HTTP client. We will use only TFRX report server because we will build a server application based on Windows platform. We will not build Windows client, we just use a web browser and we will use a mobile application created on FMX platform. Now when you have some information about FastReport Enterprise components, we will move and create our first server application. We are ready to make our first server application. We need to create new VCL form application and look for FastReport 5 client server tab. For FastReport Enterprise component, we need TFRX report server component. As you can see, it has not so many properties, but most important of these properties, of course, is config file name, because here you can specify config file which contain all necessary setting for the report server. Also we need TFRX report component, TFRX designer, because we want to call designer from this application, and we need some components for which use it inside the reports. We need chat component and TFRX ADO component. Also we place some export filters. We will use most used of the export filters. That will be enough. Now we can hide all this component because we want to design our form later. Now we must set database connection. We will use IDO component. We will create a new TFRX IDO connection and call it server database and save our project to the new folder. We will call it FRX server. This is need for config files because we need place to put our config files where server located. So we have config file where our server properties locate, like port, timeouts, path to all HTML documents generated by server side, like index files or reports files. Template path contains all HTML templates for reports. Report engine settings contain paths to report template, ability to set file caching, and another engine properties. Also we can set properties for export filters. But for this moment we need make sure our database is properly configured. As we use IDO database, we using jet provider. So as we can see, it's set correctly. So we return to our application, connect our database to FastReport IDO components, and we need to set connection string to our IDO database. As we saw before, it stored in config file, so we need to do it in from code. We will use form create event server database connection string. To access config file, we need to specify another FastReport module. It contains global object of FastReport config file. It calls FastReport server config. So now we can use server config object and to read config file directly from application. We need to call getValue method, and we need to see what values we need to get. Also it's defined in config file. We need database connection string, and if we move up we see that it's all located in server node. So we need to use server database connection string. Now we want to open our database. So now we need to put few buttons for to start report server, to stop report server, and of course for run report designer. This will be start server button, button for report designer, and another button for stop report server. We need to change button captions, stop server, design report, and start server. Now we can use this button to start our server. First we need to check that our connection is set and active. After that we can run our server. We check connected property of the database. And now we need to call FastReport server and open method. This method will run report server component and FastReport server close to stop our server. For report design we will use FastReport design report. So that will be enough for simply run our server. But before that we need to copy our server files. As I said, I already prepared some files, htdocs, this index page of the report server, some setting for top page, for bottom, for server statistic and so on. Also report files stored in reports folder. Templates folder contains our templates like list of reports and toolbar settings. Allow config and deny config. Use it to store IP addresses of users. So we need to copy all these files to our project folder. You can find these files in FastReport demo. You don't need to create another files. We change output path to main project folder because we copy all files to this folder. Now we can try to run our designer. We have some errors that server cannot create some folders. Let's take a look what folders it can create. We can scroll down it. As we can see, we have log settings, its log folders, and cache folder. So we need to create these two folders in our application folder. Also, I set login prompt to false. Don't want to see login message every time. Now we can run our server side. It's Windows firewall asking us to allow or deny of server. Now we can connect to localhost and see that our server is running. We can change the main page of the server as I mentioned before. Let's put some text here. Can go back to web browser, update, and we see that settings was picked up. Also, if we want to change report list, we can go to templates folder and look for list began HTML. Set for example border to 1. You see it's also was changed. So now we can try to open some report. So you can export, print, refresh report, navigate, and so on. Now stopping our server and want to make some status in this form because we don't actually see that report server is running. So I will put a label and output server status in this label. Change the label name. Now we want to output some additional information about server, like some statistic for sessions and for reports. Let's make another label. It will be total label, total session label, and to output our information we will use edit. It will be total session edit box. We will set read-only property. Now we can copy these two controls and use it for another output. We need just 4. The second one will be for total reports output. Total report edit. Current session count. Current session count edit box. Current reports and current reports edit box. Now we want to set text of edit box to 0. And change captions in labels. This will be total sessions, total reports, current sessions, and current reports. Now to update this information we will need to use a timer, so we will put a timer component on the form. We will use update every 1 second, but now we can set some status information about server. We change server status list label to cannot connect to database if we fail to connect to our database. Also, I'm going to define one constant for status info. It will be server status. Now we can set status when our database is connected. Also, when application is running, our server is not running actually, so we need to hide stop server button. And when server start, we want to check is server actually started, and if it is, we disable server start button and we enable server stop button, that user actually knows that he can stop the report server. Now we can change status in our label that server is running. Now we want to check server condition in our timer and output some information about it. So we need onTimer event, using the same code as before, and if server is stopped, we need to show start server button and say that our server is stopped. Now we want to output some statistic about server. For this we need another FastReport module, because statistic information defined in this module. We need to include FRX server statistic. Now we can use server statistic variable and output some information about the statistic to our edit boxes. This will be for total session count, server statistic, and total session count. We need to do the same for others edit boxes. It will be for report, total count. This one will be for current session count. And for the report session report count, for the current report count. Now we make our simple server application, so we can try to run it. And we can actually run our server. Go into browser and have a look that our server is running. As you can see, we can use report with dialogues. In FastReport server, it's of course it's only a basic dialogues, but it's enough to give you the ability to pass parameter to reports. Now, as you can see, we have update of our statistic. We can stop our server. We need to do another improvement in our server application. Now, to design report, we need to set report template part. We will use FRX designer component and set opendir property and use part of the application and get folder name from the config. We will need to call server config getValue method. This folder name located in server reports part. It's relative part for the report template, so we need to remove first two symbols from this name. For this we using copy function. Now, after we edit our report, we need to update list of the server templates, so we need to call FRX report server close and FRX report server open. So basically we need to reopen FastReport server. Now we can run our server again. We can see the statistic page of the server. It's the same as statistic on our form. Now we can open memas and pictures report. And we want to change this report. We call the designer from on the server side. Open mema pictures report. Change some text properties. Save this report and refresh it. As you see, the report is changed. FastReport server update report list and rebuild this report. Now we can actually take a look how it looks from the mobile devices. I'm going to connect my Android device from my desktop using QNC server. Now we can connect to our server. It's located in local network, so I'm using IP address for this. We can see the same title page and the same report. We can navigate on this report. Basically do the same thing at desktop browser. Also we can export our report, for example, to PDF format. Let's open it. We see the same report but in PDF format. So how you can see the report server components, it's a small step forward to cross-platform report developing. So basically you need to only to run the report server and you connect from any device which allow you to view HTML and has a web browser. But unfortunately this application doesn't look native on mobile platform. You can see address bar with an IP address here. So what to do if we don't want to show it to our customers on mobile devices? Well, in this case we can make another application using FMX framework. So what do we need for our FMX application? First of all, it will be something like a web browser, because we need to view our HTML pages. FMX framework already have component for this. It's located on Internet tab. We need a tab web browser component, and we need a few toolbars as well. One on the top of screen and second at the bottom. Client align for our web browser. So we need a few buttons. This one will be for report list. We can set a style lookup for this one, and another to refresh report. Let's set align to left, and for this one as well. Now we can select new lookup style for this button. Now at the bottom of our screen we have two buttons, page forward or backward. Need align it to left, style lookup, this one, and copy this button, set the style to right and change button style. So we have a basic form. Now we need to do some initialization on our form. First of all, we need a variable where we can store a URL of server. Let's make a new variable for it. So we need a new string variable and one for the server name. We can initialize this variable on form create event. So f server. I'm using a local network, so it will be IP address. So let's see what we can get with it. I will just pass our server URL to web browser component and call web browser navigate method. Let me connect to my Android device using VNC server. So we got it connected. Now we can try to run our application just to check if it works. So it works, but we need to set web browser caching to fails, because as you see it cached page of original FastReport server example. Enable caching fails. We can do it in initialization for form. So you can see the same page as in HTML browser, but first of all, I don't want a user to see this main page with a list of reports, because it looks not native. It still looks like a website, and if we open a report, we can see that we still have a toolbar, so I want to hide it as well. Let's get back to our code. So first thing we want to do is get list of the reports available on the server. FastReport server allow you to do that. We need to make a get request from web browser and get a list of the available reports on the server side. For this we can use another component, HTTP request from web services tab. But first, because we need to show our report list somewhere, we need to create another form in our application. This form will contain only the list box, and we need to one property on this form. To add one property, it will be used to store selected index of the list box. Get it name f selected, make it as public property. Now in form create we set this field to 0, and in on change list box event, we need to pass selected item index, and close this form. So this is basically what do we need to do. I will save a new application. We don't need this form anymore. We will use it from here. So we need to include this form unit. Well, now we need to get our report list by using HTTP request component. So for this we need another two variables. One will be for memory stream, and one will be global for this form. Let's call it FSTR list. It will contain list of our reports. It will be test string. We need to create this list on form create event and destroy it later when form destroyed as well. Now we can use this list, and we can use our HTTP request component. So basically we need to set URL for this component, the server, and need to call our variable to get our list. Get variable request with server reports list. So now it will return to us list of the reports. We need to use HTTP request get method and pass it our memory stream, which we need to create above. Now we need to use our string list and load from memory. So this string list contains not only the reports names, but first it will be a report name without extension, second will be the same report with relative part and extension, and the third will be the report description. So we need to sort it out to add in list only items. So we need a cycle here. Here we will use form 2. We need to clear list box and use a cycle for str list count items. Now we need to add only reports names. As I said, every reports list contains 3 items, so we can do something like this to get only items we need. We will fill our list box only with report names without extensions. We need items, add, and we need FSTR list. So now also we need to know when our form is closed to update our report, so we need to use onClose event here. So we need to declare a event, and async it to form 2, and after that we can show our form. Now in onClose event we need to update our URL of the report, not greater than count of items in our list. Now we can assign our FURL variable. We need to use fServer. It stores server name plus, and here we need to set a parameter for FastReport server, result, report, and we need to pass report name here. It will be list form to selected in them, but as report list is not a report name with extension, it's not a first item, we need to make some offset for it. Now, as I said before, we want to hide our toolbars, native toolbars which are available on FastReport, so we can pass another parameter to FastReport server and say to disable page navigation. Now we can assign URL to our web browser and update it. For update we will use this button. All it will do if it compares web browser URL, call navigate method, event here. Now we can get a list of items, of reports. We can pass it to report server, we can select it. Let's have a look how it actually works. On mobile device we can run our application. Now we can see how it actually works. We can see that we get a list of reports. This is our second form. We can choose something, and as you can see we don't have a toolbar anymore, so the user actually don't know that it's not a native application, it's just a web browser. All we need to do is realize another function. It's to move pages of the report. Let's back to our code. We need another variable, number of page. We will decrease number here, but only if page number is greater than 1. And here we need to update web browser URL. We need to use FURL, which was generated before, and add one new parameter. It calls page range, and we need to pass it each number we want to see, and call web browser navigate method. Here we need to increase our page count and also set web browser URL and pass page range and page number, and call navigate method as well. Here we need to set f1 page to 1 because we selected a report here. Now we can go back to Android device. We can choose a report, for example parameters. Okay, we can choose another report. we can change our pages. So user actually don't know that it can be just an HTML page. It's a cheap way to make your FastReport server application looks native, not just in web browser, but like an application itself. You can refresh report, choose another report, change pages. So as you can see, it looks very native. User don't see any parameters, don't see the web browser, don't see address toolbar, and so on. So that's how you can make your application looks natively when using FastReport server. That's all I want to show you in this video. We have learned how to build our simplest server report and how to build something like a native application using FireMonkey framework. So now you can get closer to mobile platform and give you user ability to view some reports you made in FastReport. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned something new from it and you find it interesting. So if you have any questions, I will be here to answer them. Thank you.
James asked, is there any ability to use encryption HTTPS with the server to protect the data and any credentials?
No, at this moment, no, not.
Okay. And is this shipping technology or is this an upcoming release? Meaning, if developers have FastReport today, which version and how to get it?
Yes, it's shipping technology yet.
So for development, they need FastReports, is that right, in the components? And then for deployment, they need the server, or is it all in the same product?
Yes, you need a FastReport Enterprise Edition to build a server application.
Okay, so it's the enterprise.
But for client, you can use web browser or Android devices.
Okay, so on the mobile device, either any browser, or I guess you could build C++ builder app, mobile application that had the web browser component built in the container.
And I show it in this presentation how you can do it.
Yep, so if your users, if the users of people who build these things don't want to install an app, they can just use their Safari or Chrome or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good options. If you have other questions for the FastReport team, anything about FastReport at all, or anything in this presentation, just use the question area. I'm also bringing up the screen just to remind people that one of the promotion items for XZ7 customers is FastCube for the VCL version 2. Can you tell people a little more about FastCube?
Yes, FastCube is a tool, also reporting tool, but OLAP for end users who don't need to learn report designer, but want to rotate reports, rotate data just now. anyway, all the customers of XE7 can use it because it's internal.
Excellent. So I just wanted to mention that to everyone. Okay, Dennis and Michael, thank you very much for joining us.